Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mass on this third Sunday of Advent. What a beautiful day out there, huh? Wow, we praise God today for this unexpected gift. And did you all notice the special decorations that are up? Aren't they beautiful? This was all done by our Mexican community in honor of Our Lady of Guadalupe, whose feast day was yesterday. I was up with them yesterday at 3:30 a.m., and we sang songs to Mary for 4 hours. So don't say I never did anything for them. It was beautiful. So they wanted to take them down last night, but I told them leave them there today so everybody can see them. So they're going to take these decorations down tomorrow night. So if any of you want to say a special prayer for yourself or for your family or other people who need prayers, feel free to come and say a prayer in front of our Blessed Mother. Now, today, of course, is not the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe. That was yesterday. Today is the third Sunday of Advent. Today, the rose candle on our Advent wreath is lit. And just for the record, the color of my vestment is also rose, not pink. I'd like to share with you all this afternoon a story that Cardinal Dolan shared about an experience he had when he was still just a priest. Let's hear him tell the story in his own words. As a priest assigned in Washington, D.C., I used to have the privilege of assisting occasionally at the Gift of Peace House in the northeastern corner of the Capitol, a hospice for dying AIDS patients conducted by Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity. On Good Friday, 1989, I was celebrant of the Liturgy of the Lord's Passion for the sisters, volunteers, and patients. After the assembly had venerated the cross, 2 sisters led me upstairs so that the bedridden patients could kiss the feet of our Lord on the cross. As I went from bed to bed, I noticed one emaciated man in the corner who seemed agitated and kept beckoning to me to come to him. As I began in turn to approach his bed, the sisters halted me, warning that this man was unusually violent, hateful to all, and had actually attempted to bite the attending sisters a number of times. However, the poor man kept signaling for me to come. What was I to do? What would any priest do? Slowly, cautiously, I approached and carefully extended the crucifix, which he grasped and kissed. Not the feet, I remember so vividly, but the face of the crucified Lord. He then lay back down, exhausted. The next day, Holy Saturday, the sisters called to tell me that the same man had asked to see me. I went, and again in company with 2 of the sisters as my bodyguards, I approached him. As I got nearer, he whispered, "I want to be baptized." I moved a few inches closer and asked if he could explain to me why he wanted to enter the Catholic Church. "I know nothing about Christianity or the Catholic Church," he said, with the little bit of strength he had left. "In fact, I have hated religion all my life. All I know is that for 3 months I have been here dying, and these sisters are always happy. When I curse them, they look at me with compassion in their eyes. Even when they clean up my vomit, bathe my sores, and change my diapers, they are always smiling. When they spoon feed me, there is a radiance in their eyes. All I know is that they have joy and I don't. When I ask them in desperation why they are so happy, all they answer is Jesus." "I want this Jesus," the man said. "Baptize me and give me this Jesus. Give me joy." Cardinal Dolan concludes, "Never as a priest has it brought me more satisfaction to baptize, anoint, and give First Holy Communion to someone." He died at 3:15 a.m. on Easter morning. Talk about a deathbed conversion. That man got into heaven right at the last minute. And what was it that ultimately converted him? Well, he said it himself. It was the joy of the sisters who were tending to him. They had joy, and he didn't. And the witness of their joy led him to find Christ at the finish line of his life. Well, everybody, the third Sunday of Advent is a day when the church invites us to meditate on joy. We call today Gaudete Sunday. Gaudete is a Latin word that means rejoice. Joy and rejoicing are themes that run through all of our readings today. In our first reading, the prophet Isaiah says, "I rejoice heartily in the Lord. In my God is the joy of my soul." The response of our responsorial psalm today was, "My soul rejoices in my God." In our second reading, St. Paul tells the Thessalonians, "Rejoice always." And even though our gospel doesn't speak explicitly about joy, it is about John the Baptist who led the people to Jesus. And you can make this connection. When we exude joy on our faces, we become another John the Baptist. We lead people to Jesus by our joy. Isn't that exactly what happened with those sisters and that dying man? They were John the Baptist to him precisely through their joy. All of us in this room want to experience joy. Not a person here who doesn't want it. The great theologian Thomas Aquinas taught that human beings can't not desire joy. If you're a human, you want joy. We all want to experience it. And one of the great things about being a Christian is that we can always have joy even in the midst of suffering and sorrow. Even in the face of the sickness, the death, the financial problems, the lockdowns, and the disappointments of the past year, we Christians can still have joy if only we know where to find it. So the big question is, where do you find joy? Where did those sisters find the joy that so touched the heart of that dying man? Well, remember that those sisters were the sisters of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa had a very simple formula for joy that I'd like to pass on to all of you this afternoon. Mother Teresa said that the secret to finding joy is contained in the very word joy. Mother Teresa taught that the word joy is an acronym for the order that our priorities have to be in if we want to experience joy. According to Mother Teresa, the letters J-O-Y stand for Jesus, others, you. And the secret to finding joy in this life, Mother Teresa would always say, is to put Jesus first, others second, and yourself third. If you put your priorities in that order, you can always be joyful, no matter what's going on. And if you put your priorities in the reverse order, you will always be miserable. So what exactly does this look like in our everyday lives? How do you put Jesus first? Well, we put Jesus first by following his commandments, even when it's difficult or unpopular. Jesus said in the Gospels, "If you love me, keep my commandments." When we strive to be honest, to act with integrity, to be pure with our bodies, to do what we know is right, we feel the peace and the joy of a clean conscience. Sin, on the other hand, always leads to sadness. So we put Jesus first by following his commandments. We put Jesus first by keeping our commitment to go to Mass every Sunday and holy day of obligation, even when it's inconvenient, even when we're busy, even when we're on vacation or have to excuse ourselves from a family gathering to get there. We put Jesus first when we carve out time every day for prayer, for quality conversation with him. And we put Jesus first by surrendering every area of our lives to him without holding on to anything for ourselves. Those are the concrete ways we put Jesus first. And he has to be in the first place in our lives before we can ever experience true joy. After Jesus comes other people. Jesus himself tells us that the greatest commandment of all is to love God. The second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. To love other people does not mean to experience a sentimental feeling of love. It means to do concrete, good deeds for other people no matter what we feel towards them. To listen to people when they have problems. To give people a helping hand when they struggle financially, if we can. To call people who we know are lonely. To befriend people when everybody else rejects them. To volunteer our time. To make ourselves one with people in their joys, their sorrows, and their interests. Those are the ways we love our neighbor. When we love people with our will, through concrete deeds, whether or not we feel any attraction to them at all, we experience what Mother Teresa called the joy of loving. I just saw this at work yesterday afternoon. Yesterday, right here in our incredible parish, a whole team of volunteers distributed Christmas presents to 118 families in need for a total of 410 children who will now have Christmas presents under their tree who otherwise would not have had presents on Christmas morning. Now, I didn't see a single one of those volunteers who wasn't smiling as they handed out those presents. They were experiencing the joy of loving. And I'm sure that every single one of you who made this possible by taking a tag off that tree experienced a certain satisfaction deep down when you handed in your gift. That joy you felt was the joy of loving. And we experience that every time we go outside of ourselves in concrete love. So Jesus comes first, others come second, and we come last. Now, don't misunderstand what Mother Teresa is saying here. Mother Teresa is not saying that you shouldn't take care of yourself. Mother Teresa and her sisters, and I know because I've worked very closely with them, they always took plenty of time for rest, for meals, for prayer, for recreation. They knew that you can't pour from an empty cup and you can't give what you don't have. Adequate self-care is very important. But the question for Christians is, why is it important to take care of yourself? For us, it's not important to take care of ourselves so that I can feel a greater sense of well-being. That's selfish. It's important to take care of myself so that I can be refreshed, restored, and re-energized so I can go back out there and love Jesus and other people even more. It's all oriented towards love. As Christians, we have to remember our lives are not about ourselves. Your life is not about you. Our lives have been given to us as a gift to be given away to other people. And we fully find ourselves only when we give ourselves away. Pope John Paul II called that the law of the gift. You find yourself fully when you give yourself away. When you lock yourself in the castle of yourself, it's not long before that castle becomes a prison. But when you get out of the castle, when you put Jesus and other people before yourself while still taking proper care of yourself, it's then that you find true freedom, true happiness, true and lasting joy. I know it's been a tough year, but are you experiencing joy despite everything that's been going on? If you're not, take a look today at the order of your priorities. They might need to be adjusted. Is Jesus really in the first place in your life? Do you really put other people before yourself while taking proper care of yourself? Or do you go through life primarily concerned with satisfying your own needs and your own desires. The joy we're all seeking is as simple as J-O-Y. Jesus, others, you. Go through life with your priorities in that order, and you'll always be able to find joy no matter what is happening around you. And who knows, along the way, someone might just be so impressed by your joy that they, like that dying man at the AIDS hospice, might just ask to become a Christian so that they can have the same joy they see in you.